The pivotal issue in this case is who the aggressor was on that fateful night. And that 911 tape tells the story.
Now, folks are trying to figure out if Zimmerman will take the stand and testify in his own defense. Zimmerman faces a maximum sentence of life in prison if he's convicted. That trial is expected to last 2 to 4 weeks. Now back to you.
Well, a plea hearing is scheduled today for the former Morgan State University student charged with murder. Alexander Kinway is also accused of cannibalism for the incident. It happened last year. The victim had been staying with Kinway's family in Joppatown. Kinway pled guilty but not criminally responsible to attacking a man on a college campus in Baltimore with a baseball bat. This was from a separate case. He is committed indefinitely to a psychiatric hospital. A special honor for a Baltimore Raven to tell you about this morning. Laquan Williams will be recognized by the Baltimore City Council for helping out student athletes. Just this past weekend, he hosted a free football camp for 8th to 12th graders. That included workshops on college recruitment process and branding. It is sponsored by fashion retailer DTLR. City Council President Jack Young will honor Williams at a meeting tonight. All right, if you think you're having a tough Monday, imagine how the O's feel. The team is coming off 3 straight losses against the Blue Jays. The most recent loss was yesterday, 13-5. This puts the Orioles now 2 games back in the AL East. The Red Sox still lead the division. Tonight, the Orioles are taking on the Cleveland Indians right here at Camden Yards. The Miami Heat are the NBA champs. You know that by now. And today they're going to be honored with a parade throughout the streets of Miami. This is the second year that the Heat won it all. And last year's parade drew an estimated 400,000 people. The difference, though, this year, spectators are not allowed to bring things like backpacks in light of the Boston Marathon bombings. The Heat won the championship in Game 7 against the Spurs. That final score for this game was 95-88. He made headlines last year by becoming the first person to walk across Niagara Falls on a high wire. So some wear the Grand Canyon. They say it's a logical step. It makes sense that this would be next. The death-defying journey for Daredevil and Nick Wallenda and what he plans to do next. Also ahead this morning, 3 people are dead, thousands forced from their homes. We have the latest on the recovery efforts now underway in Canada because of this flooding. Details straight ahead. Hear from you. The number to call, 301-600-1046. George Zimmerman's murder trial starts today. Opening statements are expected to get underway this morning. During opening statements, prosecutors will be allowed to argue Zimmerman profiled 17-year-old Trayvon Martin based on age or clothing, but a judge ruled last week that they can't say he profiled the unarmed teen based on race. Over the weekend, the judge also ruled 2 expert opinions of the 911 call recorded the night Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin will not be allowed at the trial. It is a victory for the defense, which argued the quality is not good enough to determine who is heard yelling in the background. Zimmerman is facing second-degree murder charges for the shooting of Trayvon Martin. He claims that he shot that teenager in self-defense. This morning, NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden is on the run, carrying a trove of the nation's most sensitive secrets. The former NSA contractor is trying to escape U.S. officials. According to reports, Snowden is at a Moscow airport, but has a flight booked to Cuba for today. Officials say he is making his way to Ecuador, where he is seeking asylum. Snowden is facing charges of theft and espionage. Officials say that he is getting legal and travel help from an anti-secrecy group, WikiLeaks. Now, as you may remember, its founder, Julian Assange, was granted asylum by Ecuador last year. Today, flags on all state buildings in New Jersey will be flown at half-staff in honor of actor James Gandolfini. Governor Chris Christie issued the executive order on Friday in which he described Gandolfini as an iconic actor. Gandolfini was a New Jersey native and a Rutgers University graduate. The 51-year-old actor, known best for his role as Tony Soprano on the HBO show The Sopranos, passed away in Italy last week. A public funeral is set for Thursday. It will take place in New York City at the Cathedral Church of St. John the Divine. Time now for a check on your weather. It looks like it is going to be a hot one today, but what else do you need to know? Here's meteorologist Lynette Charles to let you know. Thanks for joining us on this Monday morning. In Dayton, Ohio, inspectors are trying to figure out what caused an air show crash. The whole thing was captured on camera. It's a stunt that veteran wing walker Jane Wicker and her pilot have performed before, but this time something went terribly wrong.
It was coming right for us. I could see something was wrong. I almost was ready to tell everybody to get out of the way.
All we seen was the plane rolled over and hit the ground. They were too close to the ground. There was no way they'd make that turn. Just flipped straight over and hit the ground.
Wicker and her pilot were in the middle of a maneuver when the plane suddenly plunged to the ground and exploded into flames. Both died. The National Transportation Safety Board says that it could take up to a year to issue a report on what happened with this crash. Severe weather north of the border to tell you about. Alberta, Canada has been devastated by widespread flooding. And look at this, rising rivers overflowed into the banks, and it has basically made a mess out of Calgary. 3 people have died, thousands forced to evacuate, now returning home for the first time. The mayor there says that the city has turned a corner, but the emergency is not over yet.
I can't control Mother Nature. God is pouring from a teapot, and we've only got a teacup to catch it. But what we can do is make sure that when that teacup overflows, people are safe and we protect them.
Well, the mayor warns that it could take months to recover, and the damage is going to be a lot, he says. He actually says, quote, lots and lots. Some areas of the city's core are drying out this morning, but in other areas, as you can see, still submerged. The city's public schools will still be closed today. A dangerous situation out west. Windy weather there preventing crews from making progress battling a wildfire near a popular tourist area in the Colorado mountains. The fire has doubled in size, growing into an estimated 114 square miles.
I'm just glad they're keeping it that way. As far that way as they can is okay with me.
Well, officials say that no one has been injured and no buildings have been destroyed. However, evacuated residents could be gone a while. All right, time now for a check on our weather. It's Monday morning, but a lot of you are still talking about that spectacular sight in the sky. Maybe I said stalking because so many people were stalking the moon.
Exactly. I was stalking the moon over the weekend, that's for sure.
I was too. It was amazing.
It was amazing.
Making headlines around the nation this morning, a 5-year-old girl is dead from what appears to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Police say that they found the handgun used in the incident inside the house. It happened over the weekend in New Orleans. Authorities say the young girl's mother told them that she locked her daughter in the house so she could go to the store. When she returned home, the mother says she found the injured daughter on the bedroom floor. The 5-year-old girl later died at the hospital. The 28-year-old mother is now facing second-degree murder charges. Police say the mother's negligence resulted in her death. Family and friends are remembering the life of a young girl who was kidnapped and murdered in Florida. Police say 8-year-old Cherish Periwinkle was taken from a Walmart in Jacksonville Friday evening. Her body was found at a church on Saturday. Donald Smith, a registered sex offender, has been arrested and charged with her murder. He was in court yesterday where he pled not guilty. He's being held without bond. A wing walker and a pilot were killed after their stunt plane crashed. This happened during part of an air show over the weekend. The air show was taking place in Dayton, Ohio. Wing walker Jane Wicker and the pilot Charlie Schwenkweger, he died when the plane careened into the ground and then exploded. No one else was hurt, but witnesses say it looks like the plane was flying too low to the ground. After a moment of silence, planes were back up in the skies yesterday for the conclusion of the show. The FAA says they may not know for a couple of months exactly what led to that crash. Police with dogs spend hours searching a home in New England. It's the home of New England Patriots player Aaron Hernandez. They left with several bags filled with evidence. The tight end has been in the middle of a murder investigation since the body of his friend, Odin Lloyd, was found less than a mile from Hernandez's home. Hernandez has not been named a suspect in the case, and he has not said anything about the investigation. In an unrelated case, Hernandez and his attorneys are dealing with a lawsuit in Miami in which a claim was made that Hernandez, a man says that he shot him after an argument at a strip club. Today, Barks is expected to be at it once again, taking in dogs that are in need of rescue. Now, we told you this earlier this month. The shelter was forced to stop taking in dogs. This is a result of an outbreak of respiratory infections. Barks is a shelter that helps abused and abandoned animals in Baltimore City. An amazing sight in the sky over the weekend. If you happen to look up at the sky, you possibly saw the moon at its biggest and brightest. Scientists say the supermoon was closer to the Earth than any other time, just over 220,000 miles away. Doesn't seem too close, does it? It was 30% brighter and 14% larger than the average full moon. NASA says supermoons occur when the moon is full, and it's at the same time that it reaches its peak. So, Lynette, I know you were up at the sky looking for that supermoon. Did you see it?
I did see it. It was
What'd you
awesome.
think?
It was beautiful. It was good. Did you get to see it?
I did.
You did?
It was amazing. And this morning's consumer alert, it is a good time to hit the road because those gas prices are going down. That's news everybody likes. The average U.S. price for a gallon of gas has dropped 4 cents over the past 2 weeks. That's according to the Lundberg survey of fuel prices released yesterday. The national average for a gallon of regular is now $3.60. All right, make sure you check your mail. It's because you could be getting a check. According to published reports, health insurance companies are sending out rebates to nearly 150,000 families in Maryland. The rebates will average about $143 per family, and you are getting money back because of a provision in the Affordable Health Care Act. There are a few differences, though, and different ways that you can get the reimbursement, including a check or a lump sum reimbursement, and you can get that to your credit card, to name a few. All right, good news for Twinkie lovers. The sweet snack will return to store shelves. It's happening next month. The snack maker went out of business last year after filing for bankruptcy. Starting July 15th, you will be able to get your fix of Ho-Hos, cupcakes, zingers, ding-dongs, all of it once again. Hostess says that the cakes will taste the same, but the boxes will be having a different tagline. It'll read, "The sweetest comeback in history ever." Ravens wide receiver Laquan Williams offers students from our area a pretty unique opportunity. Each year he hosts a free football camp. Today, he will be recognized for his efforts. We'll tell you all about it straight ahead. And you know how many calories are in your favorite Starbucks drink? Do you want to know? Pretty soon, you're not going to have a choice. Starbucks getting ready to post their calorie counts. We'll tell you when it's happening and why. New this morning, third time is a charm for this year's Miss Maryland pageant winner. Over the weekend, 22-year-old Christina Denny was named Miss Maryland. It's her third time competing. Denny is a graduate from the University of Maryland and now teaches students with learning disabilities. The 22-year-old represented Western Maryland. In September, she will compete for the crown for the Miss America pageant. He's already won the Super Bowl. Today, Laquan Williams will get a very special honor, but it's coming from Baltimore City. Baltimore City Council President Jack Young will recognize the Ravens wide receiver for providing 8th to 12th grade student athletes free football camps. You're looking at video of kids in the area taking part in the camp this past weekend. For the past 7 years, clothing company DTLR has supported the free camp and made it possible for thousands of students to take advantage of this unique opportunity. Today, Young will also recognize the fashion retailer. Today, the Miami Heat will celebrate their NBA championship. Hundreds of thousands of fans will be lining the street for a victory parade. In the wake of the Boston Marathon bombing, security at the parade will be very tight. Fans will not be allowed to bring backpacks along the parade route. Last year, the Heat's championship parade drew about 400,000 people to the streets of Miami. And we have a heat of our own to talk about right now. So here's meteorologist Lynette Charles. Hot and humid out there. It looks like it's already pretty warm.
You're exactly right.
Starting tomorrow, when you go into a Starbucks for your morning treat, you're now going to know exactly how many calories you're taking in. The coffee retailer is getting ready to include calorie information to its menu boards and its pastry cases. Starbucks has more than 11,000 stores nationwide. Calorie information will be posted on menus at all locations and will be based on the item's standard recipe. That means calorie counts can change for better or worse based on your customized order. All right, taking a look at some of the other stories that we're keeping an eye on for you. New plebes are getting ready to make their way to Annapolis. The Naval Academy class of 2017 arrives this week. Before their oath of office ceremony, more than 1,000 young men and women will be processed through various stations, including uniform issue, medical examinations, haircuts, and learning to salute. Plebe Summer, a mandatory training program for all incoming U.S. Naval Academy freshmen, officially begins later this week after their oath of office ceremony. Your child got his or her report card at the end of the school year, and this week, America will get its assessment. The nation's report card, trends in academic progress, will be released. The report monitors how public school students are doing in the classroom. We're awaiting some major decisions from the nation's highest court. In the next week, the Supreme Court is expected to announce the outcomes in cases on California's Proposition 8, the ban on same-sex marriage, and the Federal Defense of Marriage Act. Right now, the federal law defines marriage as a union between a man and a woman. It keeps same-sex couples from collecting certain federal benefits available to heterosexual couples. The Supreme Court is also expected to hand down a ruling on affirmative action. The decision could end the use of race in college admissions nationwide. And as soon as any of these decisions come down, we'll of course let you know. We're going to bring them to you. You can be the first to know about these rulings and all other news happening. All you have to do is follow us on Twitter at ABC2 News. Use the hashtag GMM.
You're watching the station that works for you. Now, Good Morning Maryland.
It's been more than a year since the night 17-year-old Trayvon Martin was shot and killed. This morning, the trial begins for the man charged in his murder. A couple is attacked while watching their children's dog. We have an update on how they're doing this morning and what this dog attack was all about. Plus, the remains of actor James Gandolfini are being flown to the United States today. We're going to tell you how his family is planning to say their final goodbyes. Those stories are straight ahead on this Monday morning. I hope you had a great weekend, and thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Pringle. Charlie Krausen is off this morning, but meteorologist Lynette Charles is here. And Lynette, this sounds like one of those days people need to pay attention and be prepared.
Exactly, Megan. So we do have change time saver traffic.
3 minutes after 5 right now. This morning, opening statements in the George Zimmerman second-degree murder trial are set to begin. Lawyers will begin making their case in front of an all-female jury. And ABC2 News' Cherie Johnson is here with more on what's expected and the judge's decision regarding a 911 call made that night. Cherie.
Well, in just a few hours, yes, opening statements will begin in the case of George Zimmerman. He's facing second-degree murder charges for shooting and killing 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. Zimmerman is claiming he shot Martin in self-defense in February of last year. A jury of 6 women was selected last week to hear the arguments. Over the weekend, the judge ruled 2 experts' opinions on the 911 call recorded the night Martin was killed will not be allowed at the trial. It's a victory for the defense team, which argued the quality is not good enough to determine who is heard yelling in the background. But the audio can still be played at the trial. Witnesses familiar with Martin's and Zimmerman's voices, including their families, could be called to testify.
The screams don't match at all. So that's what tells me that, okay, it's not George Zimmerman of the screams that I present.
Now, with the trial starting today, another major question: will Zimmerman take the stand and testify in his own defense? That trial is expected to last 2 to 4 weeks. Now back to you.
A couple is recovering at shock trauma. We'll get to this story in just a bit, but first we want to tell you about this. This is pretty important. Frederick County Police looking for this woman, a missing mother of 2. Authorities say Teresa Lentz left her home Wednesday to run errands in Frederick. No one has seen her since. Her husband says that he last talked to her on her cell phone around 1:30 on Wednesday afternoon. Later that day, police say Lentz's daughter found her mother's car, her cell phone and keys still inside that vehicle. There is a number on your screen. We want to pass it along to you if you know anything about this missing woman. 301-600, number right there at the bottom of your screen. A couple is recovering at shock trauma after being attacked by a pit bull. It happened Friday on Highland Drive in Glen Burnie. They were watching the dog for one of their children, and it turns out that the woman and the man were seriously injured by the dog. Officers arrived to find the woman in the entryway of the apartments. As they approached, the dog ran down the entryway and went after her again. Police had to use a taser to stop the dog. The dog was killed. The latest now on Nelson Mandela. In the past 24 hours, his condition has gotten much worse. He is now in critical condition. We're going to take a live picture right now at the hospital in Pretoria in South Africa. The former South African president was admitted June 8th for a recurring lung infection. The 94-year-old has been in serious but stable condition, is downgraded over the weekend. Prayers are being offered up on his behalf. Mandela's become increasingly frail over the years, battling this serious lung infection. He hasn't appeared in public since South Africa hosted the World Cup. That was in 2010. 5:15 right now. You could be getting a check in the mail. According to published reports, health insurance companies are sending out rebates to nearly 150,000 families here in Maryland. The rebates will average $143 per family. It's all because of a provision in the Affordable Care Act. If you are eligible, you should get a rebate by the end of the month. Some good news to report about a 10-year-old girl who underwent a double lung transplant. Her aunt this morning says that she is nodding yes and no to questions. Sarah Mernigan suffers from cystic fibrosis. Almost 2 weeks ago, she underwent a 6-hour operation after a judge intervened and gave her a chance at a list of organs from adult donors. Her family thinks that she will be off a ventilator at some point this week, and then she should be able to talk. Well, Paula Deen probably thought the terrible things that she said were part of her past and they would stay there, but it looks like her past is coming back to haunt her, and it looks like it may affect her future. We're going to tell you how some of the things she's saying can't take the heat, so it looks like a lot of people are leaving Dean's kitchen. Details straight ahead. Power down before the plane takes off. That's the rule when you fly, but it could be a thing of the past. We'll explain. And as we go to break, a live picture this morning from New York City's Times Square. Large crowds are expected in Manhattan this week, as Thursday there will be a public funeral for actor James Gandolfini. You're watching Good Morning Maryland. We'll be right back.
You're watching the station that works for you. Now, Good Morning Maryland.
At least 18 shootings, 8 murders in just 3 days in Baltimore City. What families of the victims have to say about a very violent weekend. More violence to tell you about this time in Harford County. A young man found dead, multiple gunshot wounds. We'll tell you where the investigation stands this morning. And the summer driving season is off to a good start at the gas pump. We're going to tell you how far prices have dropped in just a week. All those stories straight ahead on this Monday morning. It is Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Pringle. Charlie Krausen is off today. We're going to start things right now with weather, because you should probably know it's going to be a warm one out there. Here's meteorologist Lynette Charles. He walked over a Florida highway. He walked over Niagara Falls, even the Inner Harbor. And now Daredevil Nick Wallenda has one more claim to fame. He walked on a wire over the Colorado River, and he did it without a tether, without a harness, a safety net. Here's Andrew Spencer. He has the story.
True artiste. How about that?
Walking and praying, aerialist Nick Wallenda made his way across a quarter-of-a-mile gap, suspended on a 2-inch cable 1,500 feet in the air, to the other side, where he kissed the ground and hugged his wife.
I can finally, breathe again.
Wallenda says years of planning went into this heart-stopping attempt. He trained twice a day for this stunt in his hometown of Sarasota, Florida, by walking on this cable.
We put up that cable so that it simulates the movement, but as I walked on that cable, I would actually visualize myself over the canyon and start to mentally prepare.
Wallenda holds 7 high-wire world records and comes from a family of aerialists. When asked why he takes the risk, Wallenda says it's in his blood.
My family's done this for 7 generations in 200 years, and I'm carrying on a legacy. This is something I've done since I was 2 years old, and it truly is my passion.
This passion drives the high-wire artist to defy gravity and make history. Last year, he became the first man to walk a high wire from the U.S. side to the Canadian side of Niagara Falls. With another successful walk complete, Wallenda shows no sign of stopping.
My great-grandfather, Carl Wallenda, said it best. He said, life is on the wire. Everything else is just waiting.
Andrew Spencer, ABC 2 News.
Pretty amazing sight, and it was pretty cool when he did that over the Inner Harbor more than a year ago. All right, before you head out the door, hang on, because it is one of those days where it's just going to be soupy out there, right, Lynette?
Exactly, Megan. We're talking about dew points in...
News time right now, 5:42. Where in the world is Edward Snowden going next? That's what federal agents are trying to stop from happening. Their mission to capture the man accused of leaking classified secrets. Plus, how Starbucks is making it easier for you to track your calorie intake the next time you order your favorite drink. 15 minutes away from 6 o'clock, the United States is warning other countries this morning, do not help Edward Snowden. He's the former national security contractor accused of espionage. And this morning, an international chase is on. And ABC 2 News' Cherie Johnson is monitoring the story. Cherie, do they know where he is right now?
Well, they have an idea. You know, Edward Snowden has been a step ahead of U.S. authorities so far. His flight raises thorny legal issues, including what obligation other countries have to turn him over to the United States. Washington Press, Moscow Moscow today to expel former U.S. spy agency contractor Snowden before he gets the chance to take an expected flight to Cuba to evade prosecution in the United States for espionage. Now, Snowden exposed secret U.S. government surveillance about Washington's intrusion into private lives. He was allowed to leave Hong Kong on Sunday after Washington asked the Chinese territory to arrest him. Now, he flew to Moscow, and Russian officials have been defiant, saying Moscow had no obligation to cooperate with Washington. According to published reports, sources say Russia could consider granting asylum for Snowden if he required it, but he would prefer to go to another country like Ecuador. Now, the Ecuadorian foreign minister says Snowden sought asylum in his country. He says the request will be analyzed. A source says Snowden was booked on a flight scheduled to leave for Havana this morning.
Clearly, the system did not work as it should have.
Now, a State Department official says Washington told countries in the Western Hemisphere that Snowden should not be allowed to proceed in any further international travel other than to return to the United States. If Snowden goes to Ecuador, the U.S. has an extradition treaty, but Ecuador has a sometimes prickly relationship with the U.S. It's in Ecuador's London embassy that WikiLeaks founder has taken refuge. Now back to you.
5:47 right now. Now to a developing story out of Massachusetts. We're still not getting many details about a murder investigation involving Patriots player Aaron Hernandez. Police searched his home for a second time on Saturday, but he is not being named a suspect as of right now. The victim, 27-year-old Odin Lloyd, was found shot in the head not far from Hernandez's home. Lloyd's family says the two were friends. Police also searched a strip club in Providence, Rhode Island, and copied video from surveillance cameras there. Today begins the last week of the Supreme Court's current term, and we're still waiting on some major decisions in certain cases. The justices have not sent down their ruling on two same-sex marriages cases that were basically presented before them, as well as Affirmative Action and Voting Rights Act of 1965 cases. They are expected to meet today, and it is not clear which decisions will be announced. They also could set another session for Thursday if necessary.
And now, Maryland's most accurate forecast.
After a nasty infection forced Barks to stop taking dogs into its shelter, it looks like they're now on schedule to start accepting homeless and neglected pups once again. A representative with Barks tells ABC2 that they are expecting to open their kennels to new dogs beginning today. They had to stop taking in dogs earlier this month to treat an outbreak of canine respiratory infections in the shelter. A 22-year-old teacher from Western Maryland is going to represent our state in the Miss America pageant this September. Her name is Christina Denny, and she won the Miss Maryland competition in Hagerstown over the weekend. It was the third time for her to compete in the pageant. She teaches at Echelon Academy and Olney, which helps children who have learning disabilities. Well, we're seeing a little relief at the pumps just in time for the summer driving season, so that's some pretty good news this morning. AAA is reporting gas is down a penny since last Friday and about 4 cents in the past week. The current national average is now $3.58 for a gallon of regular gas in our state. The average is $3.49, and around the Baltimore area you can find gas prices as low as $3.33. Well, Twinkies are making a comeback. The cream-filled snack will be on store shelves starting July 15th. That is according to the newly revitalized Hostess brands. The company failed to bounce back from bankruptcy last year. That caused people to stock up on Twinkies and other Hostess snacks that they thought would be gone forever. Not so. Now all you need to do is wait until mid-July and you can get your Hostess treats. All right, speaking of treats, get ready to find out how many calories are in that grande caramel frappuccino. I'm guessing a lot, because starting tomorrow, Starbucks will post the calorie count on all of its drinks and their food. Calories listed will be the items for the standard recipe. So also happening tomorrow, though, keep this in mind, Starbucks is raising prices on some of their drinks. The company says less than a third of its beverages will see an increase in price, most by about 1%. A casual dinner ends up with a trip to the hospital for some of the diners. We have the dramatic footage to share with you of a car crashing through a restaurant. We'll tell you how people inside are doing today. And it was anything but routine traffic. For one stop, this for a rookie police officer. We'll tell you about his wild encounter that was caught on camera. A nice dinner out in the town turned into a chaotic scene. Look at this. A surveillance camera captured a drunk driver crashing into a restaurant. This happened in Australia. The last table full of diners were about to leave when the car came barreling through the front of the building. Surprisingly, only a few people were hit, and they suffered minor injuries. The driver reportedly blew a .179 on a breathalyzer. He will be facing charges. A police officer in Texas gets the surprise of his life when he's making a traffic stop. He asked the driver to sign a speeding citation when a monkey riding in the back seat lunges forward, biting the officer's hand. What's a monkey doing in the car? The officer gets the ticket back, heads back to the car to tell the sergeant what happened. Well, the monkey makes the appearance at the carnivals and festivals and is usually pretty well behaved, unless the owner, of course, is getting a speeding ticket. Well, two kids think that they're just spending a day at the aquarium in Ohio. However, they get quite a surprise when they find out who's behind one of the scuba masks. We're going to tell you how it went from being good to great. And a meteorologist gets freaked out during her forecast. We're going to tell you what made her run off the set. Lynette would never do something like this. Details straight ahead on Good Morning Maryland at 6.
The pivotal issue in this case is who the aggressor was on that fateful night. And that 911 tape tells the story.
Now, folks are trying to figure out if Zimmerman will take the stand and testify in his own defense. Zimmerman faces a maximum sentence of life in prison if he's convicted. That trial is expected to last 2 to 4 weeks. Now back to you.
Well, a plea hearing is scheduled today for the former Morgan State University student charged with murder. Alexander Kinway is also accused of cannibalism for the incident. It happened last year. The victim had been staying with Kinway's family in Joppatown. Kinway pled guilty but not criminally responsible to attacking a man on a college campus in Baltimore with a baseball bat. This was from a separate case. He is committed indefinitely to a psychiatric hospital. A special honor for a Baltimore Raven to tell you about this morning. Laquan Williams will be recognized by the Baltimore City Council for helping out student athletes. Just this past weekend, he hosted a free football camp for 8th to 12th graders. That included workshops on college recruitment process and branding. It is sponsored by fashion retailer DTLR. City Council President Jack Young will honor Williams at a meeting tonight. All right, if you think you're having a tough Monday, imagine how the O's feel. The team is coming off 3 straight losses against the Blue Jays. The most recent loss was yesterday, 13-5. This puts the Orioles now 2 games back in the AL East. The Red Sox still lead the division. Tonight, the Orioles are taking on the Cleveland Indians right here at Camden Yards. The Miami Heat are the NBA champs. You know that by now. And today they're going to be honored with a parade throughout the streets of Miami. This is the second year that the Heat won it all. And last year's parade drew an estimated 400,000 people. The difference, though, this year, spectators are not allowed to bring things like backpacks in light of the Boston Marathon bombings. The Heat won the championship in Game 7 against the Spurs. That final score for this game was 95-88. He made headlines last year by becoming the first person to walk across Niagara Falls on a high wire. So some wear the Grand Canyon. They say it's a logical step. It makes sense that this would be next. The death-defying journey for Daredevil and Nick Wallenda and what he plans to do next. Also ahead this morning, 3 people are dead, thousands forced from their homes. We have the latest on the recovery efforts now underway in Canada because of this flooding. Details straight ahead. Some scary video to show you this morning. A driver crashing into a restaurant, hitting people that were sitting next to him moments before. This happened in Australia. The last table full of diners were about to leave when a car came crashing through the wall. Police say the driver was drunk. He reportedly blew a .179 on a breathalyzer. Incredibly, the people inside the restaurant only suffered minor injuries. They say that driver will be charged. All right, look at this. A Texas lawman got quite a surprise during a traffic stop. While handing out an electronic ticket device to the driver, a monkey reached out of the vehicle and swiped at the officer's hand. Here's another look. See that monkey? There he goes. Well, the officer didn't appear to be hurt in the incident, just more surprised. The driver of the truck obviously wasn't pleased that he was getting a speeding ticket, but his pal in the back went bananas when he saw the citation. Well, you've seen them before, soldier surprises at schools, at work, sometimes maybe at a baseball game, but this one's pretty creative. A dad surprised his kids while scuba diving. The kids were watching fish and some divers when they realized they knew one of them. Dad came out of the water and gave his girls a big hug. This all happened at an aquarium in Cincinnati, Ohio. A trip on a Dreamliner has been more like a nightmare in this past week. Passengers were forced to head back to the gate right after takeoff. The latest problem with what was supposed to be the future of the airline industry.
You're watching the station that works for you. Now, Good Morning Maryland.
This morning, Baltimore City police are conducting multiple investigations. This after a deadly weekend in the city. We have the latest on this excessive violence. It is Monday morning. Thanks for joining us. Hope you had a great weekend. I'm Megan Pringle. Now, before we get to the developing story out of Baltimore City that we just told you about, we want to get right to the weather because you got to plan your day. So here's meteorologist Lynette Charles to let you know what you're looking at.
All right.